Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today we'll be exploring how the CX profession has evolved and identify the top opportunities for professionals today and address the challenges that these professionals encounter in creating outstanding customer journeys. And I'm excited to be joined by a truly expert panel this morning to bring a huge wealth of knowledge of the ever-evolving customer experience landscape. And I'd like to just point out, like in 2024, there was a Forrester report noting that 86% of businesses now view customer experience as a critical differentiator. It's extremely high, so it would seem that these are very exciting times for CX professionals. And because of that, I think we're very keen to dive into what these latest trends are, the opportunities, and the obstacles shaping this dynamic field. So let's get started. I'd like to go to you first, Olga. If you could, I say we've had dedicated CX roles, I think, for about sort of 20 years, I think it's safe to say. But how far do you feel the profession has come in that 20 years? And is it still considered like an emerging discipline? Is it still quite sort of misunderstood, or have we moved on from that now, would you say?
Well, you know, Nigel, I just had a night flight from St. Petersburg, Russia, when I was emceeing a 3-day conference, online conference on customer experience. And of course, by emceeing, I've been hearing all the keynotes and hearing from the participants of the conference. So let me share with you some of the learnings I got from the guests and from the speakers. So my first observation is that really profession is changing. And if you look back, I don't know, 10, 12 years, CX profession was like, we were experts, so we were doing something with our hands. And now it's maturing. It's getting more to a C-level, getting the seat at the board of directors. And CX experts are being heard by CEOs, by owners of the companies. So it's maturing, it's getting more responsibilities and more power, more opportunities to change. So that's one observation I see, at least in Russia. Maybe we are from different countries, different regions, so we probably can discuss how it works in other regions, but this is what I see in Russia and Russian-speaking countries. And another thing I have seen, especially this year, that customer experience is coming to new industries where it have never been before. For example, we had a speaker, a president from the retail services, from funeral homes. Can you ever think about customer experience in this type of industry? But they are interested, they want to learn, they want to know more, they want to know the tools, and they want to get involved. We had guests from B2B companies like deep B2B, for example, gas distribution. And we had a CEO of the company coming to study at our educational course because he said, I want to know the ropes. I'm not going to be doing this myself. I'm going to delegate. But in order to delegate, I need to know how it works. So I would probably stop here, but these are probably two biggest trends I see.
Okay, that's good. So going in the right direction, that's good to hear. So whilst we are making all this progress, like I say, from my own experience myself, I'm still regularly very disappointed by experiences I get as a customer from lots of organizations I think should do much better. So does this mean that there's still a problem in terms of the understanding of customer journeys in organizations and the visibility of what a customer journey is in an organization? Carlo, what are your thoughts on that?
So customer experience it's an internal evolution. Maybe it was taken seriously as a practice 20, 25 years ago, but it's so sporadic, not sporadic, it's so different in different organizations, different regions, different industries. I used to work for a company called Rackspace, an American cloud software company, or cloud support company. And we had something called fanatical support, which was branded. And everyone used to say, oh, it's just a branding. Actually, it was like a deep-rooted desire from every individual in that organization to do the best they could for their customer. We would do like server rebuilds, and customers' technical teams would be in late we would order them pizzas. You know, we would see that they were looked after. And that was something that was inbuilt within the individual in the organization. So I believe that we probably can't look at any one region, any one industry. As the talk earlier was speaking about, every individual is responsible, and then collectively that then provides that experience. So are customer journeys not being documented properly? Are they not being supported properly? I don't think that's the case. I think they are. But it's so different in different industries, different organizations, different countries, different regions. So I don't think we can look at this as how is customer experience doing, like how is the ozone layer doing? You know, it's just different everywhere. Do you agree, guys?
What do you think? Maher, I'd like to bring you in on this.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks for having us here in this good gathering, and hopefully we can add something to the experience industry in general. For the journey and what we see on the maturity level, we don't have yet a documentation for journeys properly. Sometimes we are mixing between journeys and processes, or journeys and workflows, and we are trying to design them in a way that is not really reflecting the actual customer journey or how he works on his experience with the companies. And there is a good, I would say, variance between B2B, B2C, banking, governments, and all these. So organizations are trying to draw journeys. They think that they need to over-reproduce customer journeys, while the answer is very simple, is we need just to understand why we are drawing these journeys, what we need to do. And the problem is with the evolution of digital transformation in general and how we are shifting from offline channels to online channels. People are mixing. We have fragmented the responsibilities between digital team, experience team, UX team. So there is no clear understanding, and
but
I think
that's still
it's
making
still
things more difficult rather than making it easier, would you say?
Yeah, and we need to make sure that we are designing it for the customers as per the walking the customer shoes and making it simple, and to understand who is engaged in developing the journeys and why we are developing the journeys by purpose. Is it just to have a nice draw on the wall, or is it just for making us doing an enhancement for the customer experience? The number 2 point I want to add that people lack sometimes that we want to digitalize everything, while our customers themselves are omni-channel. They need the offline experience sometimes. They need the online experience. So how we can understand their needs to build the journeys properly and understand benchmark with whatever we have in the market. So I believe there is a lot of work to be done yet. Governments are exceeding, especially in this region, with the digitalization of the journeys, designing them and cut them. And I don't know yet why we need to draw the journeys while we can enhance it with the digital sometimes. It's a question for everyone just to think about it. Can we go digital directly, or shall we make something in between to understand the customers? Maybe, Carlo, you want to add?
Well, I'd say that mapping out the customer journey is obviously a great thing, but just mapping out journeys is not going to provide the excellence of experience. There's also the cultural thing. We're having a conversation yesterday evening at drinks, and we were talking about mapping a journey perfectly from A to Z and not taking into consideration any deviation from that perfect line. And this is where customer frustration comes in, right? Computer says no. You know that phrase, computer says no. And so when we're mapping out those journeys, we need to have some tolerance for things that go wrong as well. You know, if this, then that kind of thing, rather than just a straight line. So we need common sense along the mapping, along the technology, and we need that cultural need and desire and want, maybe through rewarding KPIs, etc., so that when things don't go in a straight A to Z line, people have the desire and the want to actually help.
I want to add 2 things to Carlo. We have done the customer journey maturity barometer, how mature our journey is on reality versus on papers. This is just to understand what is going on really versus what we are drawing, number 1. And we created a modular customer journey development plan. What does modular mean? It's the episodic journeys for wherever we have a journey. So for example, we design the journeys usually for the normal cases. What happens if we have this kind of odds here or there? How we can deal with that? So we created this emergency journey episode that you can pull the trigger anytime you have it and know how to deal with that. Because people usually, they know how to deal with the 90% of the cases, but our problems created is with 10% maybe, and people are not well trained to that. So back to your point, it's a culture. We need to have it. We need to make sure that we are really mature and can build on the customer needs on that one.
Okay. And Hanny, thank you for waiting very patiently. I'd like to bring you in now. As Olga was mentioning there, like, there's been a real evolution of like that role of a CX professional now becoming sort of C-suite and having the ear of a CEO, which is great to hear. Where do you think this is these sort of industries or areas where CX professionals are getting to that level, where they're most established? Which type of industries are more likely to take CX seriously and put them in, give them teams or have them at the top table?
Well, to be honest, I think, and going back to the first question, in my opinion, I still think that this discipline is still immature. If you compare it to other...
Immature, did you say?
Yeah. So if you compare it to other disciplines, for example, if you compare it to marketing, marketing started in the early 20th century. And if you're talking about CX, it started basically 20 years ago. The first official governing, let's say, institution, which was the CXPA, started basically in 2011. So looking at this in terms of a discipline, I still think that it needs time to evolve. Even with CXPA pushing for the pillars, the competencies, the certifications, we still, need time to be compared to other disciplines as well. So, and that takes us to the next point, which is why do we still see differences when it comes to the definition of CX? So
yeah, like job descriptions, there's quite a big variance.
Absolutely. So, and it all goes back to the discipline as well. Some people, they are in the contact center field. Some people are in the customer success field, and everybody is calling it CX. So it's different. And again, it goes back to the discipline. There are many factors, of course, behind this. Factors can be related to the region. It can be related to the industry. Is it B2B? Is it B2C? It goes back to the maturity level of the organizations, the structure and reporting lines. So,
do you think it's a cultural thing as well?
Speaking about this region, specifically, which I have been for the past 20 years, I think if you look at the discipline in terms of pillars, the weakest thing is the customer-centric culture. It is the foundation. It is one of the most important aspects, but it is the weakest and it is the most difficult to implement because it needs massive change within the organizations. So you might ask, what should we do about this? Why there are still so many differences in job descriptions between one company and another, and one individual and another. And I think we need, first of all, we need more trained and certified people when it comes to CX. We need more education. We need to bring also as well the CEOs and show them the value and link it between how CX can contribute to the business value.
Like Olga was saying, seeing CEOs turn up to these customer experience events, I think
this is the only way.
If we had an audience of CEOs watching the last presentation, I think it would have been fantastic. I think they would have taken a lot from that.
And despite the fact that this is one of the most important points linking CX with the business value, but still it is one of the most difficult things to achieve. It is very difficult to achieve. I've done it in a few cases, but again, to link it directly to retention or to sales or to minimizing cost, it can be done, but you need data, you need technology, you need so many things.
And I say in my experience, I'm not a customer experience professional, I'm a communications sort of strategy, but I work with quite often usually the big traditional industries. And I find it really lacking at the top specifically, I think, when you get into sort of leadership sort of areas there. Do you think, just an open question for all of you, do you think it's an issue the bigger the organizations get, it becomes more difficult for them to understand customer experience or for the customer experience professionals to have their voice heard? Do you think it's something to do with the size of organizations?
If I might, if I may just add, the regions play a major role. So if you go, for example, to the US or Europe, you might see, let's say, higher maturity levels. Like, for example, I had a chance to talk to one of the chairmen for one of the biggest B2B groups in UAE. And we're talking about 18,000 employees within the scope. And literally, when I said CX, he said, what does that mean? And they have been in the market for 20 plus years. So again, it goes back to the region. The region here still, I think, needs to mature, and the industry itself plays a major role as well.
Maher, could I just bring you in on about this region specifically? You said, how well established would you say customer experience as a discipline and is in the GCC, for example, and how things look for professionals here?
Yeah, being in different countries recently and discussing with other people, I see that we have two parts of the CX in general and the mindset. We have the government experience, which is related to everything with the governments, and we have the private sectors in general. But governments are doing very well in creating the experience, especially Saudi, UAE, Qatar with the
definitely in the UAE, I think the last 3 years has really accelerated.
Yeah,
I think.
It's going very well with the government part, how they develop the experience in general. They got the citizens' experience, guest experience, patient experience. We see a lot of things happening with the public sector. Private sector, they want it. They want to work on it, but unfortunately, they don't have the appetite and the willingness to invest in learning about the experience. So we see out of sudden, most of the companies in the private sector, big or small, banks or the others, they want the CX, and unfortunately, it's only NPS. So they think that the CX is only a survey, manipulated, linked to their KPIs, and we see an NPS of 80s. When we come to the complaints and turnovers, we see it very much opposite side. So we need to have more experience management. That's why we want to have this, I call it the CX index or the CX pulse, as what I was doing it for the past 10 years. It's about the X data with the O data to enhance it. And it's a tough job, actually. Everyone is trying to have it. And out of sudden, in the recent years, we saw like thousands of people became CX experts. They just make all the call centers in the CX part. They just change the title. All the account managers are success managers now. So a lot of things are happening. And now I think we are all now going to be an AI experts very soon. So we need just to decide what we want. Is it an experience driven based on the customers, what they need, and how we can make sure that the responsibility on every one of us to show the real value, to talk more, having such an events that we can have like-minded people to see how we can create an impact so people can work on the experience in general. So governments are teaching us, private sector are following with good numbers just for awards and celebrations. Real work is still customers not touching that.
It's interesting you bring the government. I say I've lived here for nearly 12 years now, and as a citizen, there's sort of an admin you have to do. When I come, you'd carry the pack of paper around with you because you didn't know what you would need or what you were going to get asked, and you guarantee that one bit of paper that you didn't have would be what they asked for, and it was just like you went in there sort of not really sure whether you'd be able to do what you need to do. And now I think it is completely different as originally from Britain. I think the government, they make things so much easier now. They've completely overtaken them, I think, in that respect, into the experience it gave me. Why have they got it so right all of a sudden, do you think? What's changed there? Maybe what could private sector learn from them? Why do you think that the government's got this so right?
It's only about building the muscle for the innovation, for how we can take...
It's what, sorry?
The muscle, how we can take and adapt new changes to be able to empower our team. If I got your question properly, how we can make the organizations ready to be an AI and to make everyone practice it, this is what we are talking about in general, Nigel. How we can build the capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we need just to make sure that we are empowering the teams, we are building the labs. I think we are more in need for an AI labs, innovation hubs, within our organizations, or even if we can have assured labs so people can test and practice the knowledge, which we were talking a little bit with the gentleman in the coffee, that we are very conservative to share ideas and to brainstorm, while the problem of the cost of hiding information is maybe 200 times more than sharing the information and creating a real value. And that's why we need to have an open discussions to go over these and to build the labs. AI is a must. I don't think that anyone in this room now didn't use AI, and
Yeah,
everyone is using it.
it's inevitable we're going to have to we'll have a focus now on AI. So
Yeah,
I'd like to look at
customers
that.
are ready, but organizations are not yet.
Yeah, I think, like most professionals, I think AI has brought significant new capabilities for customer experience, some really good tools around like predictive analytics, like sentiment analysis, and virtual assistants is a very obvious one that has really, I think, really just gone to a next level now. What should, Carlo, if I could ask you, what should CX professionals be focusing on, and what should they be sort of doing to sort of stay up to speed? It feels very difficult now to sort of stay up to speed with AI, because it always feels like there's a huge new leap forward on a very regular basis. How do we sort of stay up to speed with that in terms of CX as well?
It's interesting. So this question and the previous kind of dovetail together very well. UAE government providing excellent service. What's happened? How often do you speak with someone when you are interacting with a government service in the UAE? Rarely. Very rarely. How often do you speak with someone when you have a problem with utilities, banking, the private sector? More often than not, you speak with someone. We have, in this region, a very unique challenge that the rest of the world does not have. And that is that a region which has Arabic as its natural language has adopted a foreign language as the main services language. We have services people, probably not the best paid, if you look at all of the job roles in organizations. Probably they don't have English as their first language. So you've got this cultural capability mismatch. And where the government have got it right is through digitalization. And this is where AI comes in. So your question, Nigel, was what should we be doing as CX professionals?
Yeah, it's obviously having a big influence on customer experience. As professionals, like what should you be looking at for? How do you stay on top of the developments of AI, which seems like a job in itself, is to understand what's happening in AI that's useful to you or impacting customer experiences?
So you take some technology vendors. Let's take Salesforce, for instance. If a customer service representative is using, if the company has Salesforce and they're using the right applications and they're using something called Agentforce, which is an AI capability within Salesforce. What that customer service representative can have is access to contextually relevant information in real time while engaging with the customer. And what that does is that provides the ability to empathize with the situation, to have the right information, to take the right remedial action, or to give the right advice. As CX professionals, individuals, so we're not leaders, if we're working in customer success or customer service, etc., you're kind of limited as to what you can do as an individual because you are at the behest of the infrastructure and the information your company has and how it's delivered to you. As CX leaders, absolutely, you need to be making sure that you're leveraging this technology to get information available to customer service or customer experience professionals so that they're able to use that in the delivery of their service. It's access to contextually relevant information.
And Hani, I believe that you're doing a master's in AI. Do you think like some sort of like, if you're not getting training in AI from your company, you should maybe be going out and seeking it yourself to sort of get ahead as a CX professional?
To be honest, the master's degree in AI for myself, it was kind of a personal thing. I've always been a fan of science fiction movies, and I remember reading a book called AI 2041, which was written by a famous computer scientist, a Chinese one called Kai-Fu Lim. And he wrote it in 2021 and wanted to show the world through his book how things is going to be in 20 years. That's why, hence the name of the book, 2041. But in general, it wasn't about AI and CX for myself. It was, it is a revolution happening. It is happening, whether we like it or not. How things are on the ground, it's a different story. But you need to know about it. You need to have that knowledge. Everyone needs that AI education. It's going to impact our personal lives. It's going to impact our career lives. For younger professionals, I think, and it started to happen here in UAE, I think, is that it should be part of their education. For more mature professionals, they should have the working understanding of AI, how can you implement it, and the implications or the downsides of it as well. So,
so at least a basic understanding of
definitely.
How it works.
Everybody needs to have this kind of awareness at this stage.
And thinking forward on what might happen next with sort of AI and how that might infect over. There was lots of stories, I think, in the past where scaremongering about everyone's going to lose their jobs. But I think maybe, say, like 5 years ago. But now I think we're starting to see with like things like ChatGPT that people that feels a bit more real in certain jobs. Should customer experience professionals be worried that AI might take jobs away from them? Is there any sort of real threat of that? Or is it the fact that you sort of deal in, I guess, human behavior and empathy? Does that sort of insulate you guys from this a little bit?
Let's just go back to the government using technology to provide a better service that, Nigel, you've been experiencing and not holding all of your papers because you don't know what you're going to need. That is going to be true of private sector, 100%. Without a shred of doubt, unfortunately, the genie's out of the bottle, as Hanni's just said. There's no going back. The train's left the station. But it doesn't mean we're going to have mass redundancies and mass unemployment in the short and near medium term. Long term, who cares? Like, that's way, way, way in the future. And this is moving so quickly. What organizations need to do is look at how they can leverage all technologies. I mean, my business is AI, so I would say AI, but AI is just one tool in the box. Look at all technologies, look at how AI can activate some of those technologies, and how you can use that to increase the level of service that you provide. And customer experience should be internal and external. You have, internal and external customers. So, yeah, inevitably, AI is going to take away some of the workload from CX professionals. But that's not a bad thing. I mean, for 2 years, I've been teaching employees in companies how to use AI in their day-to-day work, and been advising companies on which business processes they can automate. And the net effect so far has been that individuals' workloads are lowered. That means they have more time to focus on the more enjoyable strategic work. And actually, what really happens from an organizational perspective is you're able to develop a standard of service through the use of tools and AI and other technologies. And what you need to do is then you can tweak the tools to increase the service or to change the service, rather than educating thousands of people on that change.
No panic.
No immediate panic.
No immediate panic. Okay, that's good to hear. So I'd just like to switch.
Can I add just 2 cents to what Carlo have been saying and about the role of AI in our profession in CX? My personal word of the year is exocortex. Actually, the part of the brain we are using to think is called neocortex. And I hear it more and more that AI is an exocortex. It's like a part of our brain that's located physically not in our body, but outside. And it helps us being more powerful, doing more, understanding more. And it works on personal level for each of us, and it works on organizational level as well. So it's not a question whether we should use it or not. Of course we should. And if we, say, look back 20 years, 40 years, let's put it this way, probably the question was, shall we use internet or not? Is it like a technical gimmick? Yeah. Now we don't even question that. If we look back 100 years, the same question was about electricity. So do we talk about businesses using electricity as a competitive advantage? Well, of course not, isn't it?
So a useful tool that everyone's keen to use rather than something they're scared of might replace them, I think.
It's just like a setting by default that's going to be with us in, I don't know, 1, 2, 5 years. And the question is how we as professionals and on organizational level as well can efficiently and effectively use this exocortex. It's going to be a new norm, a new reality. And I personally see it's coming as a new norm in more and more industries.
Right. Another thing I'd like to address now, I think, is, we've kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, is I think just a long-standing challenge, I think, for customer experience professionals is how they sort of get cross-functional support and how they actually get from people around them, their peers, but also any best practices and how they get that support from the top as well. It might be more difficult for them if they're, I say, not at that level, that C-suite level. It might be part of another division. What are best practices in terms of CX professionals influencing the organizations that they work in? Olga, if you'd like to kick off.
Yeah. Again, in my view, the biggest and boldest move all of us as CX professionals shall make is to get closer to people from other departments. Talk more with HR, because HR is the department that is directly responsible for culture. What is more important than culture, isn't it? And it's like a common task that shall be solved together by CX and HR. Single department cannot do it, but working together, it becomes feasible. Same with marketing. Marketing cares about bringing more leads, and customer experience cares about keeping these leads within the organization and reducing churn, isn't it? Same with sales. Again, sales are responsible for actually bringing the cash flow, and CX can contribute to that by making customers wanting to pay more, to stay longer, to use additional services. So for me, the question is how efficiently we cooperate with other departments. If we understand their goals and their needs of each department, whether we can be relevant, we can help HR team, say, reduce the staff turnover, which is in Russia is a huge problem. I don't know how it works in other regions, but for us, it's a huge problem. And CX can help here by building great employee experience. And
Hanny, could I bring you into influence in leadership specifically? I saw that you posted something I really liked about companies that really made CX an important part of their strategy and how they performed. So is it, I mean, leadership thinks performance and numbers. What good examples have you got that make them sort of prove that taking customer experience really seriously does make a big difference to leaders?
Yeah, I still think that CX professionals, they have the most difficult job. And linking the value of CX with a business is a really difficult part. But referring to the study that you mentioned, which was really compelling, that a company called Watermark Consulting, they did a research study that spanned the data of 13 years, and they published it in 2021. And what they did is that they took the top 10 companies, top 10 leaders when it comes to CX, and the bottom 10 companies when it comes to CX. And they compared their stock performance and stock return across that period of time, and they compared it to S&P 500 index. And they noticed that the top 10 CX leaders, they were higher than the S&P 500 index by 110 points, and the laggards were behind by 108 points. The difference between the laggards and the leaders were around 3 times when it comes to stock performance and stock returns.
I just thought that was a really good example of it. If you're struggling to get a CEO to understand this, I'm sure CEO, when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they'll check is the share price. Yep. And that's a great example, a great way to get through to them, maybe.
But to be honest, it wasn't. I think that this kind of study missed some other points. It focused on CX. But again, when it comes to stock performance, you have economic factors, social factors, and so many other factors. But still, even if you want to play with the numbers and remove those factors, it still makes a great story. and you can link it to the business performance.
So we're kind of running out of time. There was a question I really wanted to squeeze in for you, Olga. I thought it was a really good one. What differentiates a CX expert from a CX leader? What does it take to be a leader?
Well, basically, for me, one of the biggest changes that's happening in customer experience, that in order to be successful in building great customer experience, we need not only to be experts with AI, with NPS, with other tools and methodologies, but we need to be leaders that really understand business, can talk the language of the business, can talk money, can talk sales, can talk customer churn, can talk margin, etc., so that we are relevant for the business. And then we can talk to CEO, to financial, to commercial directors, to talk the language they understand, and that's important for them. And yeah, in order to do that, we really need to be more than just experts knowing the tools. We need to have leadership skills, isn't it? Like general.
And I guess just to finish on, I'd like to give everyone also an opportunity there. Just like, what one thing would you think makes a CX leader, makes someone really stand out?
Just do the core CX value. Know what your customers want and how you can give them. So customers means internal and external, top or bottom. So whatever your customers want, your employees, your leadership, try to give them in the way that they understand and they seek for it. So this is the simple answer. Always seek for their feedback, listen, and then answer and build bridges. Because CX experts or leaders, we are just there to build the bridges and to break the silos. So we need to make sure that we build bridges and empower people with the right tools.
Hanny, what would you say makes someone go from CX expert to CX leader?
I think the human skills are the most important factor. The ability to understand people and build relationships with them, bring them into the solution. Whenever you design a CX solution, they have to be part of the solution. So even when we speak about AI, they say, are we going to be replaced or not? Yes, a lot of things they're going to be replaced, but AI will never replace the human skills.
Okay. And Carlo, the final end
For
review.
me, it's lead by example and show empathy. Empathy internally with your staff and externally.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's about as much time as we've got, isn't it, for this session. Thank you to our panelists. I think it was a really good, interesting conversation. A lot of optimism. It's good to hear. Things are going in the right direction. Still lots of challenges to really, still it's got a long way to go, I think, to establish it itself, but a very promising future, I think, from what we've heard today from our panelists. So thank you all for your time and making space in your diary to be here today. It was really useful. Thank you very much.